Welcome back to my rubber heart. Today, I want to talk about something that comes up quite often when we start exploring advanced rubber formulations. The idea of blending IIR, isobutylene isoprene rubber, with NBR, which is nitrile-butadiene rubber. On the surface, it might sound like a great idea. IIR is known for its low gas permeability and excellent damping properties, while NBR brings oil resistance and mechanical strength to the table. You would think that combining the two would give you the best of both worlds, but in reality, it's not that simple. Let's start with the basics. IIR, in its non-halogenated form, is a saturated rubber with very low levels of unsaturation in its molecular backbone. That makes it relatively inert and less reactive in comparison to rubbers like NBR, which contain more unsaturation and are polar in nature, especially when acrylonitrile content is high. NBR responds well to conventional sulfur curing systems, forming a tight cross-link network through its double bonds. But IIR doesn't play by those rules. Its unsaturation is too low to respond well to sulfur cures without high accelerator to sulfur ratios, and even then the cure is sluggish and inefficient. So what happens when you try to blend these two? You run into several issues. First, their difference in polarity leads to poor compatibility. They don't mix on a molecular level, and instead you get a phase-separated material where the two rubbers tend to pull away from each other. That leads to weak mechanical properties, poor dispersion, and inconsistent performance. On top of that, because they don't cure the same way, getting a uniform vulcanized network is extremely difficult. NBR starts to cure and form a network while IIR remains mostly unreacted, resulting in an uneven structure with poor durability and limited practical value. Now, let's contrast that with the blending of halogenated IIR, specifically chlorinated or brominated versions, known as CIIR and BIIR with NBR. This is where things get interesting. The halogenation process adds reactive chlorine or bromine atoms to the polymer chain, which significantly changes the reactivity of the rubber. Those halogen atoms make the IIR backbone more susceptible to cross-linking and also improve its polarity, which suddenly makes it far more compatible with NBR. The enhanced polarity leads to better interfacial adhesion between the two rubbers, reducing the tendency for phase separation. Plus, the halogenated IIR can be cured with zinc oxide and accelerated sulfur systems that are more compatible with the cure chemistry of NBR. That opens the door for true co-vulcanization, where both rubbers participate in the cure reaction and form a more uniform, interconnected network. This is why in commercial applications, especially in the automotive and industrial sectors, you'll see halogenated butyl rubbers blended with NBR rather than regular butyl rubber. These blends can be engineered into thermoplastic vulcanizates, or TPVs, that combine excellent impermeability, oil resistance, and flexibility. In fact, products like Geolast are based on this very concept. NBR blended with halogenated butyl rubber in a dynamically vulcanized matrix with polypropylene, giving a material that can be processed like a plastic but performs like rubber. From a scientific standpoint, this all comes down to reactivity and compatibility. Halogenation activates the IIR, making it chemically versatile and polar enough to bond well with NBR. Non-halogenated IIR simply doesn't offer the same compatibility or reactivity. That's why, even though the idea of blending IIR with NBR sounds appealing, it's the halogenated forms that actually make the theory work in real-world compounds. So, next time you are thinking about designing a blend that needs both low permeability and oil resistance, remember that the key might not just be the rubber you choose, but the way it's modified. Thanks for tuning into my rubber heart. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment if you've got a blend you're curious about. See you next time. Until then, stay elastic and stay curious.